Hello! Welcome back to another Saturday stream. Uh, Sorry about the slightly late start. I guess I'm right on time. Uh, I was just looking in the control panel in YouTube and it's like, hey, your backup stream is not configured correctly. I'm like, great. Nothing changed since last week and this week, so what'd you do, YouTube? Anyway, I hope everybody had a wonderful week. It's been a week. It's been one of the weeks of the year for me. The job I'm in, my day job, we're hitting the end of the year, so everybody wants projects to get closed and finished. So I'm in kind of crunch mode at the moment at work. So I've been putting in, over 40 hours in my week sometimes, and it's been real stressful. So I'm very happy to have a nice, relaxing Saturday stream, and hopefully y'all will enjoy it as well. So, what we're doing today is taking a look at what I call just fast AGP cards. Now, like, what constitutes a fast AGP card is completely subjective, but for me, I consider it anything faster than, like, a 6600 GT, right? So, like, a 6600 GT was, like, pretty much the card to get when it launched, if you had an AGP system, which most people did, because it had a perfect blend of performance and price to performance ratio. It wasn't terribly expensive, and it was, between like 10 and 20% faster than like a Radeon 9800 Pro, for example, which was, just like the ultimate AGP card for a long time. Pretty much since when it launched, when the 9700 Pro launched, R300 first came out, that was like the card to get, right? 8 pixel pipelines, 8 pixel shaders, 8 texture mapping units. It just churned through games. So then when the 6600 GT launched with similar specs, you get 8 pixel shaders, 8 texture mapping units, 4 render output pipelines, but your clock speeds are higher, so it does tend to outperform the old Radeon. Anyway, I consider cards that are faster than that to be fast AGP cards. So we're looking at like the 6800 GS, the 7800 GS, all the terascale cards that came out on AGP, like the 3850, the 4650, stuff like that, 2600 XT. We'll see if the 2600 XT is actually faster, but it should be on paper anyway. So I have with me here several of the cards mentioned. This is a 4650 AGP. Pop the stand off so you can see that lovely AGP connector on there. But yeah, it's a pretty modern looking card, right? Like it wouldn't look out of place as just like a low end single fan graphics card these days, versus like, for example, the 6800 GS, which has that crazy single slot cooler design that NVIDIA was using back in the day, right? So there's a 6800 GS, and yeah, it's single slot, 12 pixel pipelines on this one, fixed function. This one is 320 unified shaders, terascale 1, and then I've got a little baby. This is marked on the card as a 3650, but when you install a driver for it, it identifies itself as 2600 XT. So this is 120 unified shaders. Otherwise, specs are pretty similar to the 6600 GT. We've got 8 texture mapping units and 4 render output pipelines. But yeah, also terascale 1, obviously. My impetus for doing the stream today, you might notice on the table behind me, is a cooler. This is a well-worn, kind of disgusting cooler from a 7800 GS that I picked up recently that unfortunately does not work. The PCB is back there. There's the PCB for it. My impetus for the stream was that I needed to set up this machine. Let me switch cameras. I'll show you what we're looking at today. I needed to set up this machine to properly test it, since this is my fastest AGP rig. But unfortunately, it was still non-functional. So I did end up using this rig to test the rest of these cards. just to make sure that everything else is still working in my fast AGP collection. So I figured, I have it out and set up. That was that was Friday night. Why don't I just leave it set up for the Saturday stream? That's what we'll do. So that's what we're doing. I've got Windows XP installed on this SSD here. So we're not going to be using the DX10 capabilities of these terascale cards because I don't have Vista on this thing. But I think it'll still be interesting. These are difficult to run. These fast AGP cards because they are so powerful. Once the industry moved to unified shaders, things got real fast. Graphics cards got very powerful very quickly. Being able to cram in compute-capable shaders into a card and then, not have to worry about, balancing the number of vertex shaders versus pixel shaders. Shader counts exploded. And of course, unified shaders are what we have now. Your shader can do whatever. You can assign it pixel shading code, you can assign it vertex shading code. I don't think they can do both. They'll end up getting assigned by the hardware scheduler on the card, I think. But yeah, cards got real fast. Got very powerful very quickly. And the problem with that is, AGP systems started dying out pretty much immediately after the 6000 series of GeForces launched, like 2003, 2004. Intel introduced PCI Express, and that was very clear that we were being railroaded. That was the direction that the industry was going. I don't know if the licensing fees were better. Intel also made AGP, so but obviously the slot has definitely improved. Being able to plug in multiple graphics cards was a big deal. In the mid 2000s, mid late 2000s, early 2010s, with SLI and Crossfire, and then of course that fell by the wayside as well. But yeah, the big difficulty with running these really high-end AGP cards is that you usually don't have enough CPU horsepower. That's what makes these things challenging to run and really see the performance out of them, right? Like you can go, I think I was testing this the other night. I didn't show anybody, unfortunately. I should have made a social media post on it, but using my AGP test bench, the one that I have up there, way up there on the top of the shelf, that we looked at when we looked at the Voodoo 5. So that's an Athlon XP, right? That's a sort of an old school architecture. Still uses the EV6 bus on the Athlon. It's AGP4X. It uses DDR1 RAM. There's certain platform bottlenecks there. So like when you move from say like the 6800 GS, which has pretty reasonably performant drivers, and you plug in like the 4650, the system ends up slowing down. You get lower frame rates in games because the driver overhead, you're already stuck at the peak capability of the machine as far as CPU performance is concerned. So any additional driver overhead, which of course you had with ATI drivers back then, you'll end up losing performance overall by plugging in a faster graphics card. So what are we playing with today? So what is my solution to the driver overhead problem? Well, this is an Asus P5PE-VM. It's not exactly the fastest AGP motherboard that's out there. I think that goes to I want to say the ASRock 4-core dual VSTA, I think. It's like a socket AN2 motherboard from like the height of ASRock's absurdity. So they have like a PCI Express slot and an AGP 8X slot on the board. It's nuts, and trying to find examples of them, there are hundreds of dollars, which is just ridiculous. This is I think this is an Intel 865E chipset. So kind of an old school chipset. I think we're running DDR1, not even DDR2. But we get an AGP 8X slot, obviously, and I'm booting the system first with my 6600 GTs to kind of give you all a baseline of what kind of performance you'd expect out of like an early XP late Windows 98 machine. And the processor for now is my Pentium D 945. This is a Pressler Pentium D. So it's got 2 Cedar Mill cores. These are the 65 nanometer die shrink of Prescott. So Intel just took 2 of those Prescott cores and shrunk them to make Cedar Mill. I think they got a level 2 cache boost as well, and then stuck them onto the chip. They both communicate over the front side bus. They're not like specially linked or anything to each other, but it works fairly well. It competed against the Athlon X2, the Athlon 64 X2, and not particularly well. But of course, Intel would fix that with the second processor that we're going to be looking at today, which is the Core 2 Duo. And this board is unique in that it doesn't, this won't even focus. Anyway, this is a Core 2 Duo E6700. I don't have a Core 2 Extreme yet. It's on its way. It's just kind of held up in the post. But this board will run Conroe Core 2 Duos at 1066 frontside bus. So E6700, Core 2 Extreme X6800. That's pretty much the limit of what this thing will do. But significantly faster than even a Pentium D945 at 3.4 gigahertz. But yeah, so let's boot this thing up, and you can get a feel for what a system like this would return in performance numbers with, you know, a reasonable end of AGP era kind of card, and then we'll take things to the extreme. And yes, this is the Core 2 Extreme cooler with the cool blue fan on it. I was really happy I found one of those. They're apparently not super hard to find on eBay. Like even new in box, you can pick these things up. Shocked, no one actually wanted to use the box cooler with the Core 2 Extreme. How weird. Anyway, let's get this thing booted up, and y'all are in for a treat. Headphone users, caution, this is a loud system. Alright, so power on. There we go. Power's on, all the fans go to maximum speed, and then everything settles. It's still not what I'd call quiet, but it's livable. Good old Windows XP. Alright. I've got most of these cards connected through digital connections. They all support DVI, which means no audio. So I apologize, the demos aren't going to have audio today. Mostly because I don't have like a DVI plus analog audio to HDMI converter. I've got like VGA that'll take analog audio, turn it into HDMI, get the audio across, and then, you know, later cards that have fully compliant HDMI ports, you know, would also have, you know, send audio over the HDMI. Basically, they spawn a device in Device Manager for doing audio that Windows could target audio to. So, let's see. I've not said hi to chat yet, so let's say hi to chat. Hello, chat. How are things going? Dog Online says, yo, finally on time for a change. Which means, as in finally on time. George Z88 is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. I'm just fiddling with my keyboard and mouse cables here. 1 second. I have too much stuff on this desk. It's been a little bit crazy. There we go. Now I've got a mouse on a mouse pad. It's gonna make my life so much easier. Alright. Macintosh Unboxed UK says, howdy, hello, welcome to the stream. Let's see. Yep. So Timo asked about what the maximum AGP speed was. Dog answered 8x. That's correct. AGP 8x, which was, oh gosh, what was that speed? Because original AGP was 66 or 133 megahertz. Don't remember. AGP was a parallel interface. It was really kind of a superset of PCI, Of course, 3DFX, treated it as just as PCI. It had a couple of additional features like sideband addressing and the ability for the graphics card to write back to RAM instead of just only receiving information. Timo says, my uncle's old Taxi Tax PC has a dual GPU 7th series, 512 megabytes. Nice. Dogs, the 7300 series is very weak, but all depends on your 3D needs. Yeah, we've got. Well, I was hoping I'd have my this card I've been trying to resurrect is a 7800 GS. It's pretty beefy. I wish it did work. I really wanted to show it off, but I think I'm gonna have to repair it. Dog says the E6750, this is not an E6750, will probably easily run at 3.5 to 3.6 gigahertz. So the Pentium dual-core E6750 is not a Core 2 Duo E6700. This is Conroe. It's not Wolfdale 2M. It's not a Pentium dual-core. It is an actual Core 2 Duo. Unfortunately, the bus speed is the limiting factor on this board, and from what I've read, it's not a great overclocker, unfortunately. So we're going to probably be running at stock speeds, which is only, because it's Conroe, it's only going to be like 2.66 gigahertz. It should still be like 50% faster than the Pentium D, but I imagine even with the 46, at least with the 4650, probably even with the 6800 GS, we're going to be running into some CPU bottlenecks still. I guess we'll see. Apostle says, of course the box is noisy. Yep. It is noisy. Seatbore says, I love 6600 GT. I am once again, Europeans, I am polluting your stream. It's funny though, you might recognize this card. I picked a 6600 GT up out of Eastern Europe. It's a, I just looked it up. It's a ProView, I think? ViewTech or ProView? I think it's ProView. PixelView. ProTech? ProView? I don't remember. It's a European brand. I've never seen it before. But it's been very reliable for me. And it was pretty inexpensive when I picked it up, which was nice. Let's see. Yeah, Timo says the AGP 8X, but not all motherboards did 8X. Yeah, that's the case with that AGP test bench that I have. The reason I use it for an AGP test bench is that it's universal AGP. It does cap out at 4x speeds, but it runs almost every graphics card. Pretty much every graphics card I've stuffed into it, it'll run. It has a little bit of problems with the 2600 XT. Weirdly, it'll boot it, but it artifacts. It does not artifact on this board, which is extra weird. Yep. Compatibility madness. Hello, I recognize your icon. Welcome, welcome. Yes, this E6750 is Conroe G0 with 1333 MHz frontside bus. Yes, unfortunately, that's the biggest limiting factor on this board, is we're stuck at frontside bus 800 or 1066. I do have the latest BIOS installed, so it should work. I haven't tested it yet. We're going to test it live on the stream. This would be great. This has never backfired on me before. Anyway, so I've got a couple of tests lined up for the 4 cards. Starting with Expendable, which is a DirectX 6 game with no transform lighting. So it's really only stressing out the card's fill rates, really. Texture mapping units, and even then, not that much. It's mostly vertex lighting, and then we'll stress out the render output pipelines. And that's about it. But let's run that first. Let's do... Because I was playing around with this at 720p. What is this going to let me set this to? This DPI port has a weird selection of resolutions. Yeah, 1280 by 1024 is the most it'll let me do. 720p is probably going to run us into CPU bottlenecks, honestly, pretty quickly. And you'll see why. This is just the 6600 GT. Yeah, like 150 FPS, 170 FPS right away. Right off the bat. 720p, 32-bit color, all the options on. Yeah, that's... The 6600 GT is no slouch. And this isn't even like, you know, it's not even touching this card's, you know, pixel shading capabilities, which are extensive. I've got 3D Mark 03, which isn't a super great demonstration of these cards because it's we've got one DirectX 7 test, two DirectX 8 tests, and then a DirectX 9 test. But should give you an idea of how fast these things are if you've ever run 3D Mark 03 on an older, slower card. They're kind of crazy. We're starting out with the slowest card here, maybe. The 2600 XT might be slower. We should do that one next just to see. But yeah, 200 FPS in Expendable. It's fast. It's fast. This is right where I put the threshold for like fast AGP. Because above this, really, if you're playing, especially if you're playing like Windows 98 games, you don't need anything faster than this, honestly. So that's Expendable, 200 FPS. The Code Creatures benchmark is an old benchmark from way back in the day. It does DX8, actually. Again, because this won't do any resolutions over 1280 by 1024, we're going to run a custom benchmark at 720p. See what it can do. This is like if you took the Nature benchmark in 3D Mark 2001 and you made a whole benchmark out of it. It's like, you know, pixel shader 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, something like that. Not incredibly sophisticated, but we're not getting 200 FPS, that's for sure. I've also got Unreal Tournament 2003 on here. We can run the built-in benchmark on that. Timo says, but replace with Core 2 Quad. Yeah, I don't think this chipset supports 4 cores. I think that's the issue. Because I do have like a Q6600 that should work. At least based on, you know, frontside bus, but I don't think the 865E supports quad cores. Dexor, hello! Welcome back to the stream. Dexor says, I'm running on Alpine Linux, by the way. Nice. I used Alpine Linux many years ago to create a home router. Just from whole cloth. I had an old VIA C3 system that I turned into a home router. It was a Jetway board with 2 Ethernet ports on it. It's great. Used Alpine Linux on it because you could basically freeze your disk image. It was nice. Ah. Dexter says the reason I want to try a Pentium 60 is because of something I've been wondering, if the fdiv bug of the original Pentium can affect Minecraft's world generation. That's... wow. Wow. That I tried running Minecraft on a Pentium 3, like 733, back in the day, and that was painful. Running Minecraft on a Pentium 60, you are... you are a glutton for punishment. Yeah, Apostle says the X6800 is the best solution for the 865, in my opinion. Yep, I've got one on the way. It just didn't arrive in time for this stream, unfortunately. Because every once in a while, those things go for kind of stupid money. I managed to find one that was not quite so expensive. So, Code Creatures, we got, excuse me, total average number of frames per second, 44.7. Mostly brought down by the water section where we only got around 40, and the grass section was around 50. So significantly tougher on the graphics card than Expendable, which makes sense. This actually does some pixel shading. Let's see. If I run 3D Mark, I'll just do the game test so we can see how it does. Yeah. Compatibility Madness says, officially your Asus board doesn't support quads. Yeah, no it doesn't. Let's turn off the extra tests. We'll just do the first 4 game tests. Clarjon 1 is, filing bugs. Sounds like a fun way to spend your Saturday. That's unfortunate. Dexter says, regarding the Pentium 60 running Minecraft, I'm just running the server side. Using the client would be even more painful. All I know is that I ran it on a dual Pentium 3 733 Power Edge, and it was not fast enough to keep up with the single client in world generation. Just saying. It's gonna be a bad time. Pixel Pipes has joined the stream. Hello, welcome. You have missed me rambling about the cards we're going to look at today. So I'll go over them again for folks who joined late. We've got, the headliner is the Radeon HD 4650. Slightly cut down version of the famous 3850-3870 AGP. 320 unified shaders. I've got another Terascale card here. This is marked on physically marked on the card as a 3650, but when you install a driver on this, it identifies itself as a 2600 XT. Either way, they're the same hardware, 120 unified shaders, 8 TMUs, 4 ROPs. Pretty basic, but still, lots of shading horsepower in this. Then we've got, I was hoping to use a 7800 GS. I think Nathan, you saw me post the I bought that link on that particular card back on your server, but unfortunately it is non-functional, and I'm in the process of trying to fix it and refurbish it. So instead, I've got my 6800 GS, which is 12 pipe, shader model 3. You know what it is. This is one of my favorite cards in my collection, honestly. It's just kind of a cool card. Fast, fixed function, GeForce. And then to warm things up, we're currently running a couple of benchmarks on my 6600 GT. Just to set the stage, right? Just to kind of get a baseline. Yeah. Pixelpipe says, darn. Yeah, I was really hoping. The thing is, the board looks pristine. I mean, the cooler's disgusting. I need to, deep clean the cooler. It's just full of dust and grime. But the board looks phenomenal, except for there's one spot on the back by the power connector where it looks like the caps on the back, oozed through the PCB and then, gooped out on the back. It looks real bad. I'm hoping I can fix it, but I don't have a whole lot of hope for it. Yeah, talking about cheap Core 2 Duos. Yeah, they are. This is the thing, right? Like everybody I talk to is like Core 2 isn't, it's not retro, you know, it's not worth collecting. But if you have any nostalgia for it at all, now is the time. Now is the time to buy Core 2 stuff because it is dirt cheap. It is dirt cheap. You can get most of these processors for like 10 bucks, 5 bucks. And boards are like $20, $30 in good shape. Yeah, now is the time. If you've ever been thinking about building a Core 2 system for like, you know, late 98, early XP gaming, now is the time. Or I guess even mid XP. You know, these would technically be, you know, Windows Vista cards. These are DX10. Now is the time. If you want to build an XP system out of a Core 2, this is the time to go shopping. Definitely. They are cheap as chips right now. Alright, so we just did Code Creatures, and now we've finished up with 3D Marco 3. We're just doing the game tests, so I'm ignoring what we get for our 3D Mark score, because I want the frame rates out of those game tests. So Code Creatures, the average was 44.7 FPS. Mark 03. So GT1. Stick that all the way over there. Alright, so we got 250 FPS in the DX7 test. Nice. 60.9 nice FPS in Battle of Proxicon. The Doom 3 alike, 52.1 FPS in the Oblivion analog Trolls layer, and then 51.7 FPS in the DX9 test. Not bad, not bad. It's only Pixel Shader 2.0, but still not bad. Speaking of Oblivion, I do have Oblivion on here. Let's see what we get. I've got a save file so we don't have to wander through the opening dungeon, which is... Jeez, I forgot how bad that opening dungeon is. Good old Oblivion. I really bounced off Oblivion back in the day. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it's the Game of the Year, all the quests you get from the Game of the Year edition. Hopefully it doesn't spam me with more quests. I thought I got them all. So yeah, out on the overworld, it's mostly GPU limited, mostly. But if we run across over to this island, there's there's starter dungeon over here. If you haven't played Oblivion, I don't know if I recommend it. If you've played Skyrim and you haven't played Oblivion, you might also just bounce off Oblivion. It depends. I'm gonna do a quick save here. I should probably use the quick save button, but I don't remember what it is ever. Loading stuff in. So as you can see, the Bethesda's engines have never gotten better. They've always been terrible. If you've been playing any Starfield lately, you know exactly what all these loading hitches are. I do not have my health bar in my lower left corner because there's a motherboard there. Where is the archer? Where did they go? There you are. Oh, come back here. Don't you run away from me. Don't you run. There we go. Alright. Suppose I should loot that. Grab your arrows, thank you. Don't really want any of your other stuff. Okay. So I'm going to make a new save so we can get to this part faster. Don't have to deal with all of the stuttering. Because what I was about to say is the overworld's generally speaking GPU limited, and then the dungeons, which that is your starter dungeon right there, tend to be CPU limited. So that's hopefully the performance increase we'll see when we switch to the Core 2 Duo. Okay, so we've got what, 20 FPS on the outside? Go in. This is at 720p, I think, high settings? Yeah, of course I can't see that now. I thought this was high settings. I don't remember. I'll have to check when I relaunch it. But yeah, 40 FPS on the inside. Load a little more geometry in here. We've got, like, oh, someone I need to kill. We've got someone I need to kill. Come on. Come on. It's dangerous. I don't know what my health bar is. There we go. Okay. I do like the one thing I really like about Oblivion is that you can bind a spell, you know, to the C key and just like quick cast it. It's really nice. Really convenient. You don't have to like dig out another spell. Alright, so yeah, 20 FPS in the overworld, 30-ish FPS in dungeon. So this is our baseline. So hop out here and save so we don't have to kill a bunch of people again. Deal with all the stutters. Okay. And just to demonstrate the CPU bottleneck that you're usually going to find with these fast AGP cards, we're going to switch right over to the 4650. See what happens. So let's turn the machine off. How is chat doing? Dog says, go play Oblivion, she said. And then it somehow was 2025. It do be like that sometimes. It do be like that sometimes. Oh, let's see, we've got actual HDMI on this card. I don't remember if it works correctly. We'll give it a try. I recall having some issues with it before. Obviously, my capture card takes HDMI natively on the input side, so like I've been using these little DVI to HDMI adapters. They work pretty nicely. Alright, and yeah, for the Europeans in the audience, there's that ProView Pixel View 6600. I love this thing. Sadly, we didn't get to see it running because this whole shroud, this clear shroud, has some LEDs under it. It glows kind of an NVIDIA green. It's like a couple of green LEDs and a yellow LED under it. It's nice. It's nice. I like it. I actually ended up buying a spare one for a friend because they wanted to put together a Windows 98 gaming PC, and I'm like, hey, you know what goes well with Windows 98? Especially if you're building a rip-stonkin' Windows 98 gaming PC. Alright, so we'll plug in our HDMI. Plug in our AGP graphics card. It's wild, wild. AGP HDMI. And we'll get some power into that card. Okay. Fire this up and we'll see what we get. There we go. She's a little loud on boot. Just a smidge. Now I remember. Let's see if this figures itself out. ProLink, yes! Yes, Dogs is the ProLink card. Yes, that's it. I can't imagine how I couldn't remember that extremely generic card vendor name. But yes, you're right. It's a ProLink Pixel View. Yeah. It's been a really reliable card. My only real issue with it is that the fan's starting to get noisy, but, you know, the hardware on it has been great. There's no, there's no leaking caps on it. They look pretty solid. Board's in terrific shape. It is pristine. Yeah, no, this has been a great card. If you can pick them up, I recommend them. Okay, so I think I know what's going on with this. This was the issue I was having with the HDMI on it. It doesn't initialize properly until the driver is loaded. So you can't do like BIOS in the HDMI. So, DVI to the rescue. So I'll plug in the adapter, and then this needs to go in. Whoop. Let's not put the hair in fan. This needs to go in here. Let's give this one more try. There we go. That's more like it. Yeah, the HDMI on this card is weird. It is technically HDMI. It does not operate the way you expect HDMI to operate, the way it does these days. I think they basically, like, so for basically forever back in the day, you'd get a graphics card and it would have, like, you know, 2 monitor outputs and then some kind of TV out, right? Like for composite, or in this case S-video, something like that. I think basically the HDMI on this card is like that S-video out. They don't expect you to boot up off of it. It only really initializes once the driver loads. Alright, so we are in. Now let's see, this is a significantly more powerful card than the 6600 GT. And yes, I pre-installed a bunch of drivers for this thing while I was testing. So we've got drivers already, and you can see the first time we booted we did not have drivers installed, so all of my icons are everywhere. Windows, Windows, Windows. You never change. You never change. Why do we keep using this OS, y'all? I don't know. Okay, so let's start out with expendable. This should be, let me double check my notes on the card specs, because we've got the same texture mapping unit and render output pipeline configuration as the 6600 GT, believe it or not. This, I think, this is an 8 TMU 4 ROP card. No, it's gotta be more than that. It's gotta be more than that, right? Sorry. 32 texture mapping units, 8 ROPs. That makes more sense. Like 4650 wouldn't be a 8 for. It's the 2600 XT I'm thinking of. That's what I'm thinking of. So this is a massively more powerful card than the 6600 GT. Clock speeds are about the same. We were running at 500 megahertz on the 6600 GT. We're running at about 515. Let's see what GPU-Z senses for clock speed. The stock clock is listed as 514. Let's see what it actually is. Oh, we're running at 1080p. Let's turn that resolution down so y'all can actually read this text. There we go. Okay. So we are running... Yep, there we go. 8 ROPs, 30 texture mapping units. Gig of RAM. Where is our clock? This is an overclocked model, so we're running at 600 megahertz. This is significantly faster than the 6600 GT. So who wants to take bets on what we get out of Expendable? So we got about 200 FPS out of the 6600 GT. Same resolution, same color depth, 720p. Excuse me, 32-bit color. Oh, look at that. We are CPU limited. We've got fill rate that's 2 to 4 times what the 6600 GT could deliver. But because of the driver overhead and because we've only got a Pentium 4 in here, our average FPS is lower. Currently looking at 180 FPS instead of 200. Yeah, see? Hello, Ernie. Welcome. Ernie from PC Sound Legacies here. Ernie says, I like that you're using the text editor. Been using a text editor since Windows 95 for notes and to-do lists. You know, the one I really love that still exists in Windows 10. I don't know if they pulled it into Windows 11 yet, but my favorite, WordPad. I love WordPad. WordPad was great. You just have a rich text editor just built into your OS. I used to use this all the time for like writing stuff back on my 486 on Windows 95. It was so good. Good old WordPad. So yeah, so we've got a couple of guesses. Obviously the test is already over. I'm sorry, out of sync with the chat. Ernie guessed 250 FPS. Compatibility Madness guessed 300 FPS. And we got not even close because of driver and CPU overhead. We're at 190 instead of 200. So that's what I'm aiming to combat with this system. The only way to like really effectively test these really fast AGP cards is with a really fast processor. And unfortunately, you know, like I said, the fastest board out there, the 4-core dual VSTA, it's like unobtainium prices. Unobtainium prices. 6600 GT has more memory bandwidth than the 4650. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I will pretty much guarantee that we are not GPU limited. Pretty much guarantee. And I'm going to show that right now because we're going to upgrade the CPU. So as mentioned earlier, I've got a Core 2 Duo E6700 to throw in this thing. It's just about the fastest CPU you can put in this board. I don't have my X6800 yet. It has not arrived. So let's upgrade this CPU. We're going from a Pentium D. Where did my CPU-Z go? I'll show you what we've got in here. Pentium D945, so dual cedar mill, Pressler, running at 3.4 gigahertz, just stock speeds. And we're going to go to a it sounds unintuitive, but we're going to go to a 2.66 gigahertz Core 2 Duo. So let's do a quick bench here. And you can see so have a good look at how much faster this this Core 2 is going to end up being. I mean, you're going to see it in the games. You're going to see it in the games. It should be about 50% faster. Alright, let me grab a screenshot of that on my host PC here. We can compare after we swap CPUs. Alright. Shut this down. Thermal paste. Just dropped my... Alright, one sec. I've got to get a paper towel. Okay. Unplug this CPU. Let's swap over to the desktop view so y'all can see what's going on here. There we go. Look at that. That's super blown out. Sorry. Pay no attention to the graphics card here. It's for a future video. There's a lot of memory chips on that graphics card. For a future video. Alright, let me get this CPU power connector out of here. Give me a little more room. Good old push pins. Love those Intel push pins. There we go. Okay. Ooh, that's awful. That is some dry thermal paste. Gross. I'm surprised that even worked. You know it's bad when it all comes off in one big curl. That's disgusting. Alright. Cool. Come on. There we go. That is so dirty. Gross. Wow, and it does not come off either. Okay. here we go. Moment of truth. That actually went in and stayed in. Awesome. I never get that lucky with push pins. Never ever. Alright, so I can put this fan power cable somewhere. There we go. I want this to not get sucked into these fan blades. Pretty please. Okay. Alright. So that's the CPU swapped. Let's switch over to the capture card. Beautiful. Okay. Turn the power supply back on. I'm going to have to reset the BIOS because I didn't put a BIOS clock battery in this, so... Hopefully not a big deal. Angry graphics protocol. Oh, you know, I'm like, hey, hang on, this is not working. I know why it's not working. What was the first thing I did? I unplugged the CPU power connector to get more access to the cooler. Let's try that again. Nothing like doing it live, right? There we go. Okay, so let's give it the right date and time. There we go. Yes, by default, by default, oh, this is probably 24 time. Let's see, 16, 50, 58. No floppy drive. That's all good. It sees the CPU. Excellent. Wonderful. It's all good. By default, it sets the fan to maximum RPMs. So we'll turn on our quiet fan control. Okay, that's all good. Turn off the parallel port because I'm just used to doing that. Plug and play OS, yes. USB's on. Boot device. Okay. Yes, chat has caught up to me. Hello, yes, I forgot the 4-pin power connector. We're all good. Gutbomb, hello, welcome back to the stream. Gutbomb says AGP stands for Amazing Gaming Protocol, right? Amazing Gaming Potential, right? Dog responds with no angry graphics protocol. Oh, even boot up was faster. Okay, so let's take a look at our Z's here. CPU Z. Fire up this GPU Z. Okay. There we go. Core 2 Duo E6700. Up to 2.66 gigahertz. So now, let's see what Expendable can give us. We use the same settings, 720p, 32-bit color. Yeah, like I said, CPU bottleneck. It's going so fast it can't figure it out. It was, geez. It was doing 260 FPS for a bit there. Now it's like locked to 60. Oh, I bet that's I bet it's speed step. I bet that's speed step. Hang on. I bet that's speed step. Stupid speed step. I want... Where is it? It's in power? Oh, but it's in power. Now that's all disabled. Keyframe controls on. Where was it? I guess if I turn this off the default, I can set it to 10x manually. Ah, that's it. C1 control. Okay. That should give us peak clocks all the time, hopefully. Give that a try. Oh, EIST. Alright, we'll see. We'll see if I got the right thing. That's right, yeah. Enhanced Intel Speed Step. You're right. Hopefully this is just going to be pegged at 2.66. Otherwise I'll reboot and I'll do the EIST. Oh no! Charlotte Thorne, hello, welcome to the stream. Charlotte says, I remember helping a friend upgrade his first PC. It was a Packard Bell with a Voodoo 3. It's easy, right? Well, the GPU was soldered to the motherboard, and instead of an AGP slot, it had an audio modem riser. Sad trombone. Womp, 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 womp. There we go. See, now we're pegged at 2.66 gigahertz. So let's try that again. We are, just as a reminder, 720p, 32-bit color. No speed step this time. No speed step. Oh, let's move this out of the way so you can see the frame rate. Burp. There we go. No, it's doing it again. It just like, it throttles down to 50 FPS. What the heck? And then it stops throttling down to 50 FPS. Oh, that's wild. That's wild. Okay, so that's not working correctly. What else? What else can we try? That was... Oh yeah, let's do Oblivion. No, because we didn't try that on... Shoot. Crud. Alright, well... I have to hand wave it. CPU bottleneck, although something else is going weird here. Let's see if this continues. If we run 3D Mark. Oh, Pixelpipe says turn off fraps. I can give that a try. Alright, let's give it a shot. That's true. That's true. Dog is like up the resolution. It's not like this thing can't handle it. Oh! Pixel pipes. Well done. Yeah, that's more like it. Oh, we're desynced on the demo, though. But 300 FPS. It definitely got to the 300 FPS mark. So, if we run Oblivion... I want ultra high and 720p, no VSync. Blake DMC has joined the stream. Hello, welcome. Yeah, AGP. Good old weird connectors. Look like N64 cartridges or slot 1 CPUs. Let's see if that'll focus. Yeah, there we go. It's fun staggered edge connectors. Compatibility man says, so retest everything. Yeah. Well, I don't have fraps running, but that's a little bit smoother than it was before. Just a smidge. I gotta start up fraps though, because we turned it off. Let's go quit. Exit. Significantly faster. Blake DMC says Molex greater than 12 VH power. I agree. Lots more potential for fires. Alright, well that's quite a bit better. We went from 20 FPS to 73. Which makes sense. This is a significantly more powerful graphics card. Let's see. Obviously we won't be able to see CPU bottleneck in here because 30 FPS is, it's not even close to what we can get out of this thing. But again, it's like about 3 times faster. Alright, so my question, personally, is we tested the 6600 GT on the Pentium D. Obviously, if we're doing things scientifically, we would retest the 6600 GT on the Core 2 Duo. Do we want to be scientific, or do we want to just jump into... I want to see what the 2600 XT does, because it should be, on paper, pretty similar, just in unified shaders instead of fixed function. Blake DMC says, as bad as Molex was, at least they didn't burn anywhere near as badly as the stupid 12 VH power. I don't know. I've had a couple of Molex connectors actually melt on me. From what I understand, the 12 VH power thing is kind of a non-issue. It was really like early connectors. Okay, so we did the 6600 GT, we switched to the 4650, saw the CPU bottleneck, upgraded the CPU, saw our frame rate increase quite a bit. So I think let's retest with the 6600 GT and see if we were leaving performance on the table with that even. I don't actually know. I've always been of the opinion that a 6600 GT is pretty much fine for like normal mortal levels of AGP, gaming system. It's pretty much like the most you wanna try and dedicate to a system where you're not looking for exotic motherboards, exotic processors to specifically to decrease the CPU overhead issue. What am I trying to say? I'm just saying words. Like if you're building an Athlon XP or an Athlon, like a 754, Athlon 64, I think a 6600 GT is a like pretty much an ideal card. It's nice and fast. I don't think you'll run into CPU overhead issues, but I guess we're going to find out. All right. So, together, we will challenge assumptions. I think I left that on. Yes, okay. PC Sound Legacy says Pentium disease. Yeah. Those Pentium Ds were, they were interesting. At least it's not a Smithfield. God, those things were so bad. One got a reboot. Windows XP is having indigestion. Come on. There we go. You got this, Windows. This is not that difficult. Oh, it's not happy. The heck is its problem? I've only done this like 3 other times that had no issues. That's not what I wanted. Oh well. Yeah, right? Blake DMC says, "Holy Intel airplane, Batman." Timo says, "I had a 6600 GT, could not buy a 6800. They were expensive. Nvidia wanted a lot of money for 6800s. Okay, what on earth is going on? I'm sure it's the driver's issue. Sound card, weird. That's right. Click that subscribe login. Okay, let's see if uninstalling the driver is gonna bring us any joy. Come on, Windows. It's not running particularly warm. It's a Core 2 Duo, why would it? There we go. So this will let me reinstall the drivers. That would be nice, Blake DMC. Blake DMC says, I just hope Jensen quits and sells Nvidia to EVGA. Wouldn't that be nice? It's totally not going to happen. But boy, would that be nice. Uh-oh. It's not happy. What? It's your problem. Give it a reseat, maybe that's what it needs. I can't do anything without you making a comment. Compatibility Madness is 8198. Interesting choice. It's the one that's on Phil's site. It works with the 6800 GS and the 6600 GT. And no, before you say it, you can't use an older driver version with the 6800 GS. I don't know why. It looks like it just needed a reseat. Or not. That's not happy. That's definitely not happy. Windows is auto-installing drivers. Well, of course you're not going to find it, because I deleted it. Silly operating system. Oh, let's try... The driver I was using was 9381. See if it'll do the thing. Hey, that's better. I think it just needed a reseat. Let's give it a try. Pixelpipe says, you know, just because it was working 20 minutes ago clearly means nothing to Windows XP. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, Carrie is hopping off. Thanks, good to see you. Glad you could join the stream. I feel like we're there. I think we're nope. No joy. Alright. I'm going to try, because all four of these cards worked with the Pentium, which is bizarre. I'm going to try the... Where did I put the stand for this? There it is. I'm going to try the 6800 GS. Uses the same driver. GS. See if we get any love with this one. Big fat fixed function card. Love this thing. Of course, the fact that it worked with Pentium means nothing for whether it'll work or not with the Core 2, because apparently that's very different. I'm wondering if it's frontside bus, right? Because this is a different frontside bus speed, and I'm wondering if there's a timing issue with the frontside bus versus the AGP. There we go. Frontside bus versus the AGP speed. I wonder if that's what was going on with the 6600. Let's find out. I can feel the air from this CPU cooler all the way over here on my hand by my desk. It's like a good 3 feet to feel that air blow. Jeez. All right, let's see if this will just work. I love that I pre-test all these things and then we get on stream and nothing works correctly. It's great. So much fun. Alright, Windows is going to auto-install a driver. Come on, you can do it. That driver is loaded. See, I wonder if it's just like, it's the AGP bus timing. No, because now it doesn't say it's actually loaded. The fan spun down, which usually means that the driver's loaded. Will it work? I'll reboot. Let's see if it works. PC Sound Legacy says, that's the Windows experience. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It totally is. Okay. We're booted. Do we have the driver? Apparently it's just 6600 GT. It just doesn't like it. So let's switch up to... There we go. It's just the 6600 GT apparently. Just having a bad time. Alright, well let's... Now that all my icons are screwed up again. Every time! Every time! I swear. Okay, code creatures, expendable, expendable. GPU Z goes up here, sure. Move the desktop view out of the way for a sec so I can move icons around. Love it! Love it! GPU Z, CPU Z, GPU Z. We'll run those while I'm organizing icons. Far Cry. Fraps. Oh, if you're wondering what this is, HXD, this is a hex editor. So in order to get expendable to run on more modern hardware, especially Pentium Ds, Core 2 Duos, stuff like that, you have to hex edit it. Because it'll try and test the CPU, and I mean test, like it'll do a CPU ID query. And it'll come back with the wrong CPU ID, and it'll try and run 3D Now code for a K62 on a Pentium D or a Core 2 Duo, which doesn't work, obviously. So what you have to do, I'll show you really quickly. This is kind of fun. So for everybody who wants to run expendable on more modern hardware and are having trouble with it, like detecting the wrong CPU and then crashing, this is how you get around that. So go.exe is the go.exe is the actual game. Expendable is the launcher where you can set your settings. So you drop it on your hex editor, and then you do a search for time demo. Right? So the first thing you get is when you do a minus question mark, it'll show you what the help is. But if you continue down, here we go. Yeah. You have to set... Keep going. Yeah, so here, down here is where it looks for what your command line options are. So like low VRAM, time demo, time dem 2, there's apparently a second time demo. But the one you want to look for is, where is it? There's also a command line option, who stayed late? Here it is. No CPU test. This is what you're looking for. So you pass it no CPU test. The reason you have to do this is that Expendable only accepts one command line option. You can only send it one. So you can turn on no CPU test and play the game on modern hardware, but you can't benchmark it, because if you pass it time demo as well, it ignores it. So you have to rename these two parameters to be the same thing. It's really wild. So you do no CPU test, because it's the longer of the two. And then you rename, where did I put it? Time demo. You rename the time demo one to no CPU test as well. And then pass it, you just, on the command line, or on the shortcut, you pass it no CPU test. Here it is. Yeah, see it, time demo 1 mode activated? And I've set that to no CPU test. The reason you do that, that is the longer of the two parameters, so you can overwrite that extra null character on the end there. There's a null byte here. There's usually 3 null bytes here after the command line parameter. So you can overwrite one of them, and it doesn't invalidate it as being a Win32 application, so you can still run it. So you rename time demo to no CPU test in a hex editor, and then it works. And you pass on your shortcut, you pass no CPU test to it. And it'll activate both of those command line parameters at the same time. Tricky. Tricky. So let's see what it does. This is the 6800 GS. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be around the same speed as that 4650. We've got slightly more efficient drivers, and we're not doing any pixel shading, right? Like, this is entirely fill rate test. And the 6800 GS is kind of a chonky card when it comes to fill rate. So settings, 720p. We're on the benchmark. Yeah, there we go. Pretty much the same. Well, actually more frame rate. Thanks to the drivers being a little more efficient. 350 FPS. That's ridiculous. I love it. Fastest you've ever seen the expendable demo go. 365 at the end. Average FPS, 365 FPS. Incredible. So that is the 6800 GS. Wild. So we know what the 4650 will do in Oblivion, so let's see what the 6800 GS will do. So we'll set it to ultra high, no VSync, 720p, HDR is on. Timo asks, can it run Doom at 999 FPS? Maybe. Pixelpipe says you could try a different driver with the 6600 GT, and that's, yeah, absolutely. See, here we go. Once you get pixel shading into the equation, this card's not quite so fast. So we saw 80 FPS with the 4650, which makes sense. 320 unified shaders versus 12 pixel shading pipelines on this thing. That makes sense. So you can start to see how it's a little difficult to benchmark some of these older cards. I think I turned off VSync, but it looks like it's still on, maybe. Oh, no, it's not. There we go. If I look at the wall, it's 72 FPS. But yeah, this is, what were we getting? We were getting 30 FPS in here with the 6600 GT on the Pentium D. Just about double that on the 6800 GS. I love this card. I love this card. Such a good card. So I tested earlier on the Pentium D Crysis. So I have the Crysis single player demo on the 6600 GT. I got about 8 or 9 FPS according to Fraps. That's at medium settings with low object detail. So let's see what the 6800 GS gets us with, of course, you know, Core 2 Duo. Carjon 1 Plus says 365 FPS, a frame for each day of the year. Indeed. So I'm running the single player demo for Crysis because I can't be bothered to buy this game. I kind of hate it. But everybody wants to know if it'll run Crysis, so... Come on, are we done with the logos? Let's go. Alright, I gave myself a save game. Just right on the beach at the very start of the single player demo. So this is like 8 or 9 FPS. On the 6600 GT. So by rights, should be about, you know, 50% faster, maybe? What would that be, like 12, 13, 14 FPS? Hey, look at that. 12 FPS. Pretty awful. So does it run Crysis? Not really. Not really. I mean, technically, but not really. Oof. That's an oof, is what that is. Alright, so let's get out of here. So now I'm really curious. Come on, let me out. Click here to buy now. I'd rather not. I'd rather drown. Let's do... I got the Far Cry demo, the second Far Cry demo. I've used it before in some of my card reviews, but it's... Maybe it's just the 6600 GT, but it was not happy when I was running it earlier. Let's see. Let's do... So, Crysis was 12 FPS. Crysis at 720p. Medium was a whopping 12 FPS. Oof. And then we'll do... I'm gonna do the Code Creature benchmark real quick here. Code Creature is 720p. That is not a colon. There we go. Where's my Code Creatures? There it is. 720p, go. Tima says Crysis can still make the PS5 and Xbox and go to their knees and beg to quit Torment. Yeah, it's a wild game. I think I watched a video on it, like why it was so demanding, a long time ago, several years ago at this point. But part of it is like it's not super, you know, multi-core optimized, but also it's a forward renderer. Like nowadays, everything that we, you know, every game that we play, all of our stuff, even our VR stuff, is deferred renderer, which is just, it's more efficient with high shader counts. But Crysis was one of the last like really big budget forward renderer games with the Crytek engine, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. So obviously with like Crysis Remastered, they went to deferred rendering because, you know, that's state of the art. But apparently part of the reason that Crysis is so difficult to run is that it's a forward renderer. Who knew? According to some YouTube video I watched a while ago, and I'm probably remembering wrong, so take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, I mentioned this, but yeah, Nathan said he can try a different driver with the 6600 GT, and yeah, I think I'll probably try that after stream, because I really gotta know. I gotta know if this 2600 XT is like, is it faster or slower than the 6600? Do the unified shaders matter when you've got, you know, 8 TMUs and 4 ROPs? I'm curious. I'm real curious. Pixelpipe says it sounds like one of the Digital Foundry videos. I bet that's what it was. I bet it was one of the DF Retro videos where they were talking about Crysis. Hello, welcome, Any Bit Fever Dreams. Yeah, we're well above 1-bit color at this point. So this is Code Creatures, or this was Code Creatures, which was a pretty briefly lived DX8 demo, or demo benchmark thing. Used primarily in the GeForce 3 Radeon 8500 era to benchmark those cards, because it was one of the few applications out there that would use Pixel Shader 1.0 and 1.1. I think it only goes up to Pixel Shader 1.2, but I'm not totally sure. But yeah, it's shows an immediate difference in rendering load versus like Expendable, which is DX6, has no pixel shaders, it's all fill rate, mostly CPU bound at this point with these cards. So yeah, we got average frames per second 72 versus 44 on the 6600 GT. I already have that open, don't I? Yes, I do. So that is 72.4. Nice. I'm going to run our 4 3D marks real quick. 6800 GS is no slouch. I mean, it's not a 4650, obviously, as we saw in Oblivion, but it's no slouch. It's no slouch. It's pretty much the most I would bother installing if you have like say a Socket 754 Athlon 64. It's pretty much the most I would bother installing in that system. Because otherwise you're just looking at CPU bottlenecks at that point. All right, 3D Mark. Oh yeah, Timo was talking about Silicon Graphics GPU and CPU cards. I miss my SGI system. I had an Iris Indigo, one of the early ones, the big purple boxes. And yeah, you spin the thing around and you open up the back, and you had these giant cards in the back that would like pop out with 2 latches. You'd have the CPU card, right? And it'd be like, there's your MIPS processor and like the RAM and stuff was on that board. And then you'd have another board that was like 2 boards stacked on each other, and that was the GPU. Absolutely wild machine. Oh, I miss that thing. I wish I'd never gotten rid of it. It's one of those things, I've got my little list of regrets, like selling my Gus. Getting rid of my SGI was one of my other big regrets. Alright, 3D Mark. Because now, even broken SGIs are like unobtainium amounts of money. So frustrating. Yeah. Timo says GPU with the Z buffer card. Yep. The big one, the Elan graphics. Yeah, it had like geometry engines on it and stuff. It's wild. 1992. Any bit has turned into 1-bit Fever Dreams. Says, friends don't let friends sell their Gus. Yeah, I really shouldn't have. It's something I regret every day. Every single day. It's okay. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I've got some Raspberry Pi Picos. I just need to put in a couple of orders with Ian and build some Pico Gus's. So as I mentioned earlier, 3D Mark 03, opens with a DirectX 7 game test. That's the airplanes, and then you've got two DirectX 8 tests. This one, Battle of Proxycon, and then Trolls Lair are both, I think, Pixel Shader 1.4, 1.2, 1.4 benchmark. So they're DirectX 8. And then the last one, Nature, again, we have another Nature benchmark in a in a 3D Mark, is Pixel Shader 2.0, so that's the DirectX 9 benchmark. It does kind of reflect the nature of games, and in like 2003, we had a lot of games that were still DX7. A bunch of DX8 games that were, they had a light amount of pixel shading in them, but not a ton, because we just didn't have that much shading horsepower. And then, of course, the Nature demo, as always, same as it was with 3D Mark 01, was, testing your future hardware capabilities. This is what future games will look like. So realistic. I do remember when I first ran this benchmark on my system. I think I ran it on my my GeForce FX 5200, because I had an FX 5200 for a while, and it was so slow. It was so slow. It was like not quite seconds per frames, but it was like 2 or 3 FPS in Trolls Lair. It was real bad. It's real bad. Yeah, 03 was, they had already rebranded to Future Mark, I believe. Because I think 01 was still Mad Onion. Because I think they were a demo scene group, I think, weren't they? Mad Onion? They just started making, benchmarks because they could screw around with PC hardware. Yeah. I'm a little behind chat. But yeah. Compatibility Madness, this first version of 3D Mark that was published as Future Mark. Thank you, 1-Bit. 1-Bit Fever Dreams, clarifying the Pico Gus is a new ISA card, is newly developed open hardware that uses a Pi Pico to emulate Gravis Ultrasound. It's a very cool project. Very cool project. I need to order like 4 of them. Okay. So, I just run these 4 game tests. I ignore my 3D Mark score because I want the details, which tells me what I got for frame rates. That's what I care about. Give me the frame rates. I want to know the frame rates. So, if I put this in, let me grab it out of here to 3D Mark. Game test 1, 454 FPS. That's just silly. 91.8 in Battle of Proxycon. Not bad. 77.7 lucky FPS in Trolls Lair, and 67.7 in Nature. Mother Nature. Okay. So now I really need to answer the question. How fast How fast is that 2600 XT? I'm super curious. Super, super curious. Normally I don't care, right? Like this is normally just like a whatever card, right? Like it's, you look at one of these things and it's like, it's sadness in a box. But like, its specs are so close to the 6600 GT, except that it's, you know, unified shaders instead of fixed function. I'm curious. I'm real curious. Oh, that's warm. Ooh, little bit toasty. Little bit toasty. Put that in its stand. Got my little AGP stand for it. Even has a label. Okay. So this is dual DVI with TV out in the middle. And it takes a Berg connector, because of course it takes a Berg connector. Hateful little Berg connectors on graphics cards. Ah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Dog is like, Mad Onion was a split from Remedy. Yes, that Remedy. That makes more sense. That makes more sense. Oh, we got driver install already. There we go. Let's get that resolution down to something where y'all can see this. There we go. We are on the 3650, aka the 2600 XT. So let's run... Once again, all my stuff is moved around on me. Thanks, Windows. Appreciate it. RV635. Got a half a gig of RAM, 4 render output pipelines, 8 texture mapping units, and we are running at 700 megahertz instead of 500 megahertz like the 6600. So, should be interesting. Oh, Clarjon OnePlus is heading out. Good to see you. I will be joining you shortly. Well, maybe not shortly, but I'll be joining you at some point. Yeah, for real. Charlotte Thorne says, that would explain why that 3D Mark Matrix scene's main character looked an awful lot like Max Payne. The infamous lobby scene in 3D Mark 01 SE. Good stuff. Good stuff. Alright, so I want to do expendable first to test fill rate. So we're 720p 32-bit color. Got any bets? What do we think? Yeah, same VRAM as 4650. Cheap VRAM. We have a performance boost over the 6600 GT. Which kind of makes sense. If we eliminate the CPU bottleneck, which hopefully the Core 2 Duo is doing, we should have at least a little bit of an uplift, given the clock speed difference. We're going from 500 megahertz to 700 megahertz, with the same number of render output pipelines and texture mapping units. Oh, and now Fraps is doing its thing again. But yeah, that's promising. Let me kill off Fraps here real quick, and we'll get an actual number. Close, yes. Looking good though. Looking good. Let's see if it desyncs from the demo. That is so fast. That is so fast. I didn't think I'd ever call a 2600 XT fast, but that's pretty fast. It did not desync. We're gonna get a full demo. Nice. Full benchmark. Beautiful. 290 FPS. So that's a little bit slower than 6800 GS and significantly faster than 6600 GT. Although I bet you that 6600 GT would perform better with this core too. If I could get some drivers that would work. I'll betcha. I think we are leaving performance on the table on that with the running it with the Pentium D. So that makes me curious about Oblivion. So ultra high, VSync off, and 720p. I'm not expecting, obviously, the 80 FPS that we were getting out of the 4650, but should be pretty good, I think. Hopefully more than the... Oh yeah, like that. About double what the 6800 GS was giving us out here. Just about 60 FPS in the overworld. That's not bad. That's not bad. So this is a card that you would like just kind of throw away, right? Like who cares about this thing? But it's not too bad. If you got enough CPU to like run the drivers, it returns pretty good frame rates. Especially when you can actually utilize the shading horsepower in it. I think that's pretty similar to what we were getting with the 6800, right? 90 FPS or so? Or no, we were getting like 75 looking at the wall with the 6800 GS. Not bad. Not bad. I think this is similar to the 4650. Because I think in here, generally speaking, in the dungeons, you're going to be more CPU limited. The CPU is going to be more of a bottleneck because there's just less to render. Whereas out on the overworld, you've got shaders galore, lots of geometry, lots of stuff to render. That's not bad. That's not bad. I'm impressed. Nice. Oh, right, I can't Alt F4 on this one. Exit. God-awful Oblivion faces. Oh, they're so bad. Alright, well let's do a quick code creatures for our DX8 shading. 720p, run. 30 FPS. Oh, 300 FPS. You guessed 300. Yeah, you were pretty close. 290, that's not bad. Yes. Compatibility Madness says Terrascale X shader games. Yes. It's a whole bunch of shader hardware front loaded onto like some pretty basic, render output pipelines and stuff. A lot of shader hardware. It's surprising though, right? Like it's kind of a trash card, but it actually works pretty well when you can finally like feed it the shader code that it's good at running. Just FYI, Crysis loves Terascale as well. Yep. We're going to do that next. I'm going to run 3D Mark and then we'll run Crysis on the little 2600 XT. It's, yeah. So, Crysis is a DX10 game. It likes shader hardware. It also, Compatibility Madness says it hates the GeForce 6 and 7. Yeah, they're fixed function machines, or fixed function cards. The 9800 Pro, 9700, also, you know, R300 doesn't do very well on Crysis. It's a little bit more performant, but not a lot. But yeah, it definitely likes having lots of shaders, which, you know, Terascale and Tesla are very good at. I'm planning on doing a look at the 4650. And the thing is, like, you know, usually when I do a graphics card review video, I like to, like, compare it against its contemporaries, and, like, there really weren't any, right? Like, you had basically ATI competing against itself, right? You had the 3850, 3870 AGP, and that was about it, right? Like, this was it. There was no unified shader card on AGP from NVIDIA, because they stopped making them after the 7000 series, which was, you know, it's a fast fixed function card, but it's a fixed function card. So I think it would have been kind of interesting to see, like, what would AGP Tesla have looked like, right? Like, what would G80 on AGP have looked like? I think that would have been kind of interesting. I think the primary reason they didn't do it was you couldn't give it enough power. I think it would have needed 2 Molex connectors. G80 was a little bit of a power hog. Just a smidge. Okay, so Code Creatures. 720p. That is 53.8, not bad. Way more viable than I thought it would be, honestly. Copy over my stuff from the other card here. And we'll run 3D Mark on here real quick, and then we'll run Crysis and see what happens. I can't wait to get back to the 4650. That thing was fast. 80 FPS in Oblivion. I've never seen Oblivion run that well on hardware this old. Nice, nice. Oh, HC says you play VR. I haven't touched mine in a year. Yeah, I do. I do play VR. I've got, actually have a... I have a Vive Pre over here from the early days of Steam VR. I actually collected it recently. I found one on eBay for a good price. Wanted to make sure I had one in my collection. My main headset is a Vive Pro that I've had for about a year now. It's been pretty good. It's about the same resolution as the Valve Index, but it's OLED. It's so nice. The colors are so vibrant. I love it. I spend a lot of time in VR. A lot of time. It's also not a stock Vive Pro. I've modded it to use the old deluxe audio strap, so you get the nice headphones. It's pretty comfy. Vive Pro is significantly lighter than the Index. It's a little bit less comfortable, but significantly lighter. That was my big issue with the Index. This is just so much weight on the front of your face. I have been able to extend my VR sessions with this headset, since it's so much lighter. I've been able to extend my VR sessions out to the point where, like, my full body trackers stopped working, so like 3.5, 4 hours. I used to have like terrible VR legs. I couldn't go like more than an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at a time, before I'd just start to get a huge headache. And it was because the headset was too heavy. I had to clamp it onto my face with so much force to keep it from moving around that I would just get a headache. I'd just get a headache after 2 hours. Yeah. Skilla, hello, welcome back. It's been a while since seen on a stream. Skilla says, like whiskey, this card got better with time, and it did, indeed. That's kind of all the ATI cards from back then. Like, their drivers were just so... They just had so many overhead problems, right, with their drivers. Once you could actually, like, feed them a CPU that could handle that driver overhead, they turned into really terrific cards. Yeah, like the original Radeon, the Radeon DDR, it's so much faster than the original GeForce, but you'd never know it because, you know, the drivers were garbage. This is impressive, though. It's a tiny little card. Doing pretty well. So for folks who are curious and are thinking about, like, picking up an AGP, you know, a fast AGP motherboard to run these fast AGP cards, this is the Asus P5PE-VM. This is almost the fastest CPU you can put in it. It'll only accept up to a Core 2 X6800, mostly because of a frontside bus speed limit. But it also does not officially support quad cores, and I don't think it'll boot a quad core. Unofficially, either. But these you can find fairly reasonably. I mean, they're still going to go for a premium, right? Because it's a fast AGP motherboard. But you're not talking like, you know, 4-core dual Vista type motherboard prices. The ASRock 4-core dual VSTA, which is just like redonkulous amounts of money. It is a faster board, can run faster processors. But is a lot more expensive than these P5PE VMs. Oh! Alright, so Skilla was also dog. Hello, well, welcome back on your other account. Alright, so 3D Mark, we've got 231 FPS, very respectable 231 FPS in Wings of Fury. Not quite the 6800 GS's 450 FPS, but not bad. In fact, let's pull up that 6800 GS and see what it does here. Because again, we've got a DX7 test, right? And then 2 DX8 tests, and then a DX9 test. So it's interesting to see the architectural differences here. So, right, so Battle of Proxicon, slower, about, you know, like 30 FPS slower. Trolls Lair, 53 FPS, also slower. But Nature, Mother Nature, Pixel Shader 2.0, faster than the 6800 GS. Despite being, on paper, a significantly less powerful card. Because shaders. Because shaders. It's interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, if you're looking for like a Windows XP gaming card, these little 2600 XTs, this one again was labeled as a Radeon 3650. not expensive. At least not that I remember. It's been a while since I bought it. Maybe they're expensive now, but I don't think it was terribly expensive. They tend to be overlooked. Alright, so, Crisis. Hello, welcome to the stream. Efreet05. Yeah, we're already 2 hours in. We're getting down to it. We're on the 6800, or not the 6800. We just finished up the 6800 GS. We're testing the Radeon 2600 XT at this point. Which is, as you would imagine, is a slower card in most things except heavy pixel shader games. So I would imagine we load up this game. So we got 12 FPS with the 6800 GS. I imagine we're going to get quite a bit more with this card, despite not having nearly as much render output performance on tap. Oh no. Efreet says their custom loop leaked. Killed their GPU and motherboard today. That sucks. That sucks a lot. I'll tell you, I have moved over to all air cooling because I've heard too many horror stories of things leaking. So yeah, here you go. We're over twice as fast as the 6800 because we've got quite a bit of shading horsepower here. 27, 28, 29 FPS. Not bad. We'll play a little Crisis in a minute. Mostly I just want to get, performance comparisons between these cards. So the next up is going to be the 4650. Not bad. Crisis 720p medium. 28 FPS. Pretty great. It's a far cry from the 9 FPS we started with on the, I didn't even record it. The 9 FPS I started with when I tested the 6600 GT. So, not bad. Alright, so let's get this thing turned off and the 4650 reinstalled. Time for big shader. Big shader power. So we've got, this is going to give us 320 unified shaders, 32 texture mapping units, and 8 render output pipelines. So in terms of raw, render out performance, we're technically slower than the 6800 GS, but way, way more texture mapping performance in this. And of course, 320 unified shaders, nothing to sneeze at. Okay. This thing is so loud. It's so loud. Oof, 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 oof. Oh, it's a 7900 XT too. That's not a that's not a cheap GPU either. Jeez. That sucks, man. I'm so sorry. Alright, so we should be using the same driver we were using before. Let's do a CPU ID, and a GPU Z. There we go. 320 unified shaders, 32 texture mapping units, 8 render output pipelines, GPU clock of 600 megahertz. So, not bad. $400 of DDR2. So not like phenomenal memory, but you know, it's fine. Again, you gotta try real hard to like hard GPU limit this kind of hardware. Okay. As I have, you know, specifically put together a machine to try and stress out this graphics card because it's just so fast. So we did, yeah, there we go. I think this was with the Pentium D. We ran 189 FPS. So we actually ran slower with Pentium D than we ran with the 6600 GT. So if I kill off fraps here, so we get a nice consistent frame rate. Let's see what we do with the Core 2 in here. Should be significantly faster. Okay. Double check settings, 720p, 32-bit color. Here we go. Oh, Charlotte Thorne says, I'd say pour one up for you, but it seems a little wrong in this situation. Yeah, so that's a little bit faster. Just a smidge. But you can see we're already running into another CPU bottleneck, right? Because we were doing 298, I think, with the 2600 XT. And we're not that much faster on this 4650. So we have once again run into a bit of a wall. But that is significantly faster than it was with the Pentium D. 189 to 332 on the same card. I'll mark that actually, like this is the Pentium D. Pentium D 945. And this is Core 2 Duo E6700. Alright. We'll run the other ones as well. Code creatures. Should be pretty quick. Ah. Oh, that sucks so much, Ifrit. I'm so sorry. That is no fun. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Compatibility Madness says the PCI Express version of the 2600 XT and the 4650 get 1.4 gigahertz effective memory. Which makes sense. This was the thing that they were doing back then. The AGP. You had to make sure that the AGP version, you know, acted slower than the PCI Express version. Otherwise, how do you convince people to upgrade their machines? More likely it was that they didn't think they were going to sell a lot of these cards, so they didn't bother to put the expensive memory in it. Doesn't mean it's completely ineffective. It is clearly pretty darn fast, considering what you have to go to to get it to perform well. I believe the RAM in the 3850, 3870 AGP is faster. I think they cut down like render output pipelines and as well as the memory bandwidth for the 4650, because it's otherwise basically the same, you know, terascale implementation. 320 unified shaders, 32 texture mapping units, blah 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 blah. You can tell it's running faster than it's supposed to when you see like clumps of creatures. Like there's supposed to be like a bird circling in the air over there, and it's just like a clump of wings. I can't believe that this engine never, you know, was used in any actual games. All right. So that gives us 75.1 average FPS. Which is about 50% faster than the 2600 XT, and interestingly, the same speed, just about, as the 6800 GS. 6800, pretty good at DX8 pixel shading. Okay, so I should show off Oblivion again, because this runs really nicely on this. So ultra high settings, VSync off, and 720p. Oh, I still have fraps turned off? I do. Great. Awesome. Hang on. Blast it. Come on, fraps. Okay. Do this again. Compatibility Madness says there's a few HD 2600s/3650 AGP cards out there with 1600 megahertz effective RAM. I mean, I'm sure there are, but one, how do you find them? Two, how do you like not waste all of your time and money trying to find them? Three, they have 4 render output pipelines. How much does that actually matter on the 2600 XT? Like, if I could find one for like the 4650, that makes more sense. That's not bad. That's not quite the 80 we were seeing before. Well, there's 80 over there and 80-ish over there. Okay. 73 or so outside. We go in to the dungeon. What did we see before? Like 100? Yeah. About 10, maybe 20 FPS more. Again, we're going to be more CPU bound inside in these dungeons. Pull out the torch to lower the FPS. Not another light source, no! There we go. Okay. Yeah, not bad. This is a pretty nice Oblivion machine. Got pretty good CPU performance, excellent GPU performance. It's a pretty nice time. It's a pretty nice time. So exit, and we're going to run 3D Mark on this, which again, I'm not going to expect like super high performance out of anything other than like Mother Nature. I bet we'll be pretty close to the 2600 XT's performance. I will betcha. So let's turn off feature tests, CPU tests, just do the game tests, and go. It'd be kind of fun to compare, you know, like this 2600 XT that I have here with the slow RAM versus one that has less slow RAM, but I can't imagine that your performance difference is going to be like more than 20%. Because again, it's only 4 render outputs. 8 texture mapping units, 4 render output pipelines. I guess if you could get a good overclock out of it, like it might make more sense to have that much memory bandwidth. Skilla says I did huge air coolers, like the Gemini 2 for socket 775. A 987 gram cooler with what, two 12-inch Noctua coolers on it. Yeah, I bet that'd be nice and cool. Skilla says decent air-cooled GPU solutions are more challenging though, and yeah, that's true. I did so I gave away my 1080 Ti to a friend who needed it, and that card, like I got it when the 20 series launched because it was on discount, but it was like an MSI Armor 1080 Ti, and the cooler on it was garbage. If you've seen the MSI, I think, still makes their Armor cards, that they still have the same cooler on their modern cards, and it's kind of a trash cooler. It's two like 100mm, 110mm fans, axial fans, with like 4 heat pipes. It's not a lot. It definitely gave me issues with the 1080 Ti. It's not enough cooler for that card. So the first thing I did with it when I upgraded the cooling on it is I put on an Arctic Accelero Extreme 3, I think, is the one that fit that card. Which was not bad. It was like a 6 heat pipe, 3 fan, like this big cooler. Big, beefy cooler. But I could never quite get the mount correct on it. You know, like CPU or GPU dies and cooler cold plates are never quite level, they're never quite flat. And I never could quite get the Accelero quite attached to the card correctly. If I ran the card at like full 100% load, it would hit thermal throttle. Otherwise it was fine. It usually hovered around like the high 70s, which for an air cooler in a case, not terrible. It was way better than it did with the MSI, you know, stock cooler on it. But eventually, same card, I kept that card for forever. Eventually, in the one that you may have seen in my 1080 Ti video, I put an NZXT Kraken G10? I don't remember. One of the NZXT Kraken, you know, AIO adapters onto it. And cooled it with a 240mm AIO. And that, oh my god, that made it a completely different card. It was almost silent, it ran at its top boost clock all the time. It was just nuts. It was such a good card once I put that AIO on it. I really want to do that to my 3080 that I've got in here, because that thing, I've got the triple fan gigabyte version, the 12 gig, the 3080 12 gig gigabyte, and it's so loud. It's so loud. going to see if I can like modify an older NZXT Kraken, one of the ones with the backplate. See if I can get a new backplate machined for it, and then modify the front of it, and get it to mount on my Ampere card. It'd be kind of cool. Alright. 3D Mark. All done. Let's look at the details. And enter this into our text file. So, yeah, like I said, I wasn't expecting huge numbers out of like the basic tests on this. 265 FPS for Wings of Fury, which makes sense. We're mostly dealing with driver overhead there, rather than well, driver overhead and low raw fill rate. 99.9 in Battle of Proxicon, 80.9 in Troll's Lair. I just totally messed that up. 80.9 and 94.9 FPS in Mother Nature. So to compare that with like the 6800 GS, that is, right, it's about half the speed in the DX7 benchmark. We're about 8 frames per second faster. In Proxicon, like 3 FPS faster in Troll's Lair, and then a good, like, solid nearly 30 FPS faster in Mother Nature. That's the Pixel Shader 2.0 test, which makes sense. Again, this is compute loaded hardware. Not a ton of raw fill rate. Lots of compute. 320 shaders. Okay, so last thing, of course, and we're gonna wrap it up here, is does it run Crysis? Okay. Yeah. Come on, let's go. Alright, so we'll load in our game. So we're looking at 28 FPS. This is 720p medium with low object detail. So 28 FPS on the beach here with the 2600 XT. I would expect probably double that with the 4650. Because it's a really shading heavy game. Oh, not quite double. Not double at all. About 50% more frame rate. 40 FPS. Not terrible. Perfectly playable. So let's play a little Crysis before the end of the stream here. Classic Crysis. Skilla says, I underclock my 3080 Ti with Afterburner, using the curve thing. I also underclock my 3080. Yeah, interesting. I don't get a core boost out of it, although it does reduce my temperatures quite a bit. Like, quite a bit. It makes it pretty much the only way that it's actually, like, palatable to have in the same room. Come on. Crouch is not a toggle. Let's pick up the washing machine. Forget what the key command is for... don't know. Don't remember what the command is for picking things up. It's so weird. Crouch is not a toggle, but aim down sights is a toggle. Why? Such a weird choice on controls. As low as 24 FPS looking at that flare. Yikes. Yikes, yikes. But yeah, you know, running down the beach, 44 FPS. Again, 720p medium with low object detail. I found that the low object detail lets you, it doesn't seem to really affect the image quality all that much, but it lets you get away with much slower CPUs on this game, because the object detail, for whatever reason, really hammers the CPU on this game. That flashlight. Yikes. That flashlight. I wonder if that's an artifact of it being a forward renderer or what, because it's just so bad. Could you not project a texture? Like, Crytek, could you not project a texture for your flashlight and like actually make it light up the ground instead of just being a weird blobby overlay on the screen? It's like it's using the screen space bloom effect for the flashlight. It doesn't actually like light up anything. Overall, though, this is not terrible. Pretty playable. Only like 30 FPS, though. I imagine we're starting to run into the low fill rate capabilities of this card at this point. Because there's a lot of foliage. It's a lot of transparent textures. A lot of texture clamping, a lot of fill rate stuff. No, dead people. So shocking. One Bit Fever Dream says, compute the electrodynamics of every photon against every blade of grass. See, now we've got a projected texture. Now suddenly we've got a projected texture for his flashlight. No, it's a dead guy. Alright, come on. Can I skip this? There we go. Oh, come on. The sad part is, you gotta use the mouse wheel to, like, pick your suit mode, and, using a mouse with no mouse wheel. So, that's not happening. Come on, there we go. Alright, yeah, so we get through that encounter, the sun starts to rise. All very nicely scripted. I don't I've never tried it, but I wonder if you go back down the valley if the sun sets again. I gotta find out. Okay, I gotta do gremlin mode. Does the sun set again on you? I bet it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So the whole thing is just, it's just timed with the time of day system. Bold choice. I wonder if there's got to be like trigger planes as you're walking up that set like the time of day, so you get this nice effect of the sun rising as you come around the corner. So we're going to walk over here to the overlook and see what we get. It's a fairly graphically intensive portion of the game. There we go, we get a little sunlight through the trees. Oop, I am falling down the cliff. I don't want to do that. Not yet. So it's not terrible. 38, 36 FPS. Hit the binoculars. 25. That's not great. Ouch. Again, I think this is our fill rate limiting us, because we've got this big, weird, you know, scan line overlay from our binoculars. But yeah, so there's some fast AGP cards. I hope everybody has enjoyed this look at some somewhat uncommon. I don't know if they're technically rare yet, but they're at least somewhat uncommon AGP graphics cards. But yeah, even with this monster motherboard, you still need more speed. You still need more speed. There's still reasons to have like the 4-core dual VSTA for testing these things, because they are fast. They need a lot of CPU power behind them. Anyway, let's see. I don't think there's anything else in. Oh, okay. Yeah, compatibility method says that the thing that you mentioned for flashlight needs a higher detail level. That makes sense. Only being at medium detail. Alright. Yeah, 1bit says, it's gotta go, fun stream. Well, yep, same here, gotta go. It's been a wonderful stream, I hope everybody's enjoyed it, and I'm hoping to do an actual video on these cards at some point. Hopefully soon, we'll see. But, yeah, I hope everybody had fun, and I will catch you in the next stream. Alright? Have a good one, and may the PC parts be ever in your favor. Have a good night.